Ellie Story, Chapter 15. We see the victim, Ellie. We're going to have to leave him here. Come on, Maya said. She wanted me to leave, but why? We weren't done. We hadn't found the person I had smelled. Unless... Was Maya confused? Did she think I was telling her about the person under the bricks? That wasn't right. I stared up at her, trying to tell her with my eyes, my ears, my tense and rigid body that I'd found someone new. I needed Maya to understand. I could not find without her. Finding meant bringing Maya to a person. What would I do if she wouldn't come? Does she want to find me again? Vernon asked. Maya shook her head. Poor Ellie. This is so confusing for her. You can't hide around here. It's too dangerous. Tell you what, though. It would be fun for her to chase you a little. Go up the street a bit and call her, and I'll let her off the leash. I didn't pay attention to Vernon as he trotted away. I was still on fine. My focus was on the rubble, on the crack with the faint smell drifting out of it. The person was alive and frightened. I could smell fear sharp beneath the chemical smell that hurt my nose. Maya unsnapped my leash. Ellie, what's Vernon doing? Where's he going? Hey, Ellie, look, Vernon shouted. He started to run slowly up the street, glancing back over his shoulder at me. I stared after him. It would be fun to chase him. Maya wanted me to, and I liked finding Vernon. He'd wrestle and play with me, and he was glad to be found. Finding him had been the only fun part of this night. But I had work to do. I turned back to the collapsed building. Ellie, no, Maya called. If it had been Jacob, that no would have stopped me in my tracks. But Maya just didn't command me with the same force. She was more frightened than angry. It showed in her voice. I scrambled over the pile of bricks that lay over the dead body, scrambling my way forward. My feet slipped in something wet, and the pad started to sting. That harsh, unnatural smell was rising all around me. It was blocking out the woman's scent. I clawed my way forward, trying to find it again. There, the crack in the wall was ahead. I pushed my way into it. I'd done this before, wiggling through the tube, first with Jacob, then with Maya. I knew what to do. Something wet and slick was underneath me. It was sticking to my fur. It splashed up onto my nose as I forced my way forward. It hurt. My nose stung even worse than my paws. I pushed myself forward faster, desperate to get out of this cramped, dark, dangerous place. Then the ground vanished beneath me. I'd dropped down into a narrow shaft. I hit the concrete floor hard and staggered back up, shaking my head hard. My nose, it was burning. I couldn't even smell the woman huddled in a corner of the shaft, pressing a piece of cloth she had torn off her skirt to her face. Her eyes were wide and dark as she looked at me, shocked. I couldn't get back to Maya to show her what I'd found. I barked instead. Ellie, Maya's voice echoed off the concrete walls around me as she started to cough. Get back, Maya, Vernon warned. I kept barking. Ellie, Maya shouted again, sounding closer. The woman heard Maya. The cloth dropped away from her face and she started screaming, all of her terror and pain tumbling out of her in her voice. Here, I'm here. Don't leave me in here. Get me out. There's someone in here. There's someone alive, Maya shouted. I could tell that Maya understood at last. So I stopped barking and went to sit down beside the woman I'd found. I kept shaking my head and pawing at my nose with my paw. My eyes were watering, and whatever had gotten my nose was getting worse and worse. The woman saw. Gently she tried to pat my nose with a piece of the cloth she'd held over her face. I jerked away and growled. I couldn't help it. Her touch had made the stinging flare into sharp, angry pain. I felt bad for growling. I knew that wasn't what I was supposed to do, so I crept back beside her and licked her hand to apologize. She seemed to understand and didn't try to touch my nose again. Instead, she whispered quietly to herself, words that were quiet and urgent at once. I'd heard Mama talk like that once. She called it praying. The woman and I sat together until a man wearing a helmet and a mask poked a flashlight into the space and waved it around. The light fell on both of us, and the woman gasped and then waved frantically. Soon the sounds of digging and hammering drifted down, and then a square of daylight broke into the shaft from above. A shadow blocked it almost at once. A man was swinging down on a rope. The woman had obviously never practiced being lifted from a rope harness before. She was very frightened and kept praying the whole time while the firemen buckled the straps around her and hoisted her out. But Jacob had taught me that a harness was not to be feared, so I stepped calmly in when it was my turn. I went up in jerks and stops to the top of the shaft. Maya was there when they hauled me through the hole the men had dug. I jumped into her arms as soon as they unclipped the harness from my back. Maya's relief turned quickly to alarm. "Oh no, Ellie, your nose!" Maya clipped on my leash and ran with me quickly to the fire truck. Maya talked to one of the firefighters, her voice urgent. It came over to me, and then, well, as if things weren't bad enough, he actually gave me a bath. A bath! Weren't we working? I was disgusted, but I sat still when Maya told me to. Actually, it was more of a rinsing than a bath. The firefighter held up a hose and sluiced water over my face and fur. At first, it made my nose sting worse, and I jerked away, but soon the tender skin felt a little better. Work was over after that. Maya took me back for another chopper ride and then on an airplane. Once we were back at the airport, she put me in her car and drove me straight to a man in a cool white room. He wore a white coat and smelled of other dogs and of harsh soap and disinfectant. I'd been here before. The man's voice was kind and his hands were gentle, but often there were shots involved, so he wasn't my favorite person. He held my face in his hands and looked at me carefully. Then he took a tube out of a jar and rubbed some kind of cream gently onto my nose. The cream smelled awful, but it felt cool and wonderful, so I let him do it without protesting. "What was it? Some kind of acid?" he asked Maya. "I don't know. Is she going to be okay?" Maya's hand was on my neck, rubbing the fur gently. I felt her love and concern in her touch and her voice, and I wished I could let her know I was feeling better. My nose didn't hurt as much as before, and the cream had taken the last of the stinging away. "We'll want to watch out for any signs of infection," the man in the white coat told Maya, "but I don't see any reason why she wouldn't heal up just fine." "But will she be able to work?" Maya's voice was still worried. The man shook his head. "We'll have to wait and see." Maya and I didn't do any work for the next 2 weeks or so. Every day she gently rubbed the cream into my nose. Emmett and Stella seemed to find this pretty amusing and would sit on the counter and watch. It was embarrassing letting Kat stare at me like that, but Maya told me to hold still, so I did. Tinkerbell, though, she loved that cream. I can't imagine why, but cats are strange, and that's all there is to it. After Maya had finished with me, the little gray and white cat would come out of wherever she'd been hiding and sniff at my nose for a long time. Then she'd rub against me and purr. This was even more embarrassing than the cat audience on the counter. I'd lie down with a sigh and Tinkerbell would sit and smell me, her tiny nose bobbing up and down. She even started curling up against me to sleep. It was almost more than I could stand. I couldn't wait for Maya to tell me it was time to go back to work. At last, she did. When we got to the park, I bounded up to Wally and Belinda. They were excited too. I could see it in their wide grins and hear it in their voices. "I hear you are the hero dog, Ellie. Good dog." I wagged even harder when Wally praised me. Praise was nice. Petting was good. But best of all, we were about to go to work. Wally ran off while Belinda and Maya sat down at a picnic table. "So how are you and Wally doing?" Maya asked. I sat, but it was hard. My legs were twitching with eagerness to be up and running. If we went after him now, we could find Wally right away. "He's taking me to meet his parents over the 4th, so," Belinda replied. "That's good." I groaned. Humans could do so many amazing things. Why did they sit still and make words so often? They were not even interesting words like find or come or walk or good dog. "Down, Ellie," Maya said. This was not an interesting word either. I flopped down with a sigh, looking pointedly in the direction Wally had taken. Maya and Belinda kept on making their uninteresting words. Finally, just when I was about to burst from impatience, Maya looked up with a smile. "Okay, Ellie, you can't wait, huh, girl? Find." I took off. It was marvelous being able to run, and Maya was able to keep up with me now. There was nothing better in this world than this. Wally had gotten much better at hiding. It was strange. I couldn't find his scent at all. I checked the grass, and then I lifted my nose, searching for any trace of him. There weren't many other smells today to distract me, but I still couldn't find the familiar scent that was Wally. I ran back and forth, checking the grass and the air, turning my head in every breeze. Nothing. I dashed back to Maya to make sure we were still working. "Find Ellie," she said again. I could hear a little worry in her voice, but she didn't need to worry. I was good at work. I liked Find. Wally was just being extra clever this time, but he could not fool me for long. Maya let me work for a while, and then she called me. We moved to a new area of the park, and I tried again. Grass, nothing. Bushes, nothing. Wind, nothing. No Wally anywhere. "What's the matter, girl? You okay?" I snapped my head around, startled. Was it Wally? How could that have happened? How could Wally have snuck up on me? The wind was behind him, blowing from him to me, and yet I'd heard him before I smelled him. I rocketed toward him until at last my nose picked up the smell I'd been expecting. Then I dashed back to Maya. I didn't need to show her where Wally was this time, though. She was already talking to him. "We're having a sort of an off day," she called out as he came toward us. "I guess so. I've never seen her fail before." "Hey, Ellie, how are you doing?" Wally asked. He held out a stick to me, and we played a little, tugging each other across the grass. "Tell you what, Maya, you focus our attention away from me. I'm going to go over that ridge there and double back a little. Give me about 10 minutes, said Wally. "You sure? She's been out of action for a couple of weeks. Let's give her an easy one." I may not have seen Wally leaving, but I heard him, even though Maya had offered me the rubber bone and was now, in that way humans had, trying to get it back from me. I could hear him, and I knew he was hiding again. I wrestled happily with the bone, shaking my head to tear it loose from Maya's grip. We were going to find again. "Okay, Ellie." Maya pulled the bone loose from my teeth. "Find." I took off eagerly, heading in the direction I'd heard Wally go. I ran up a small hill and stopped, not sure what to do next. How was Wally doing it? How was he hiding his scent? Not even the breeze was bringing a hint of it. I ran back to Maya for direction. She sent me off to my right. I snaked back and forth, searching. No Wally. Maya sent me left. Again, no sign of Wally. I dashed back to Maya and stared up at her face eagerly, excited but a little anxious too. Was there a clue? Something I was missing? Would she tell me? We had to find him. Maya sent me left again and followed me this time. She walked with me around the base of the hill. I'd climbed earlier. I'd searched the grass and scrubby bushes, lifting my nose to the wind, but Wally had been very clever. I had no idea where he was. Then something moved. It was just a ripple in the grass, but it caught my eye. I jumped, focused on the place. Wally sat up. I'd done it. I'd found him, but there was no need to turn back to Maya. She was already standing there. "This isn't good, is it?" Maya asked. "The vet said she should be fully recovered by now." "Well, let's give it another week, see if she gets any better," Wally said. He felt sad for some reason, so I nuzzled his hand. He was usually very happy to be found. I don't know why this time it was different. Maya and I worked a few more times after that, but Wally kept on fooling me somehow. He disguised his scent so that I couldn't pick it up until I was nearly standing on him. Then Maya and I stopped going to the park at all.